All right, welcome back to ABA exam review and the continuation of our RBT exam practice series where we're going through another set of questions together and breaking them down. If you're new to the channel, welcome. If you're returning, welcome back. Please like and subscribe. Check out btexamreview.com for all of our study materials, including our combo pack. When you pass your exam, let us know so we can include you in the Sunday shout out. Work hard, study hard. Let's get going. Lane just moved to a new town, which heavily enforces the speed limit. In order to avoid a ticket, Lane puts a sticky note on his car's dashboard that says, "Don't speed," since there are very few speed limit signs. The sticky note is acting as a blank relative to slowing down. All right, so we are looking at the sticky note in the situation. And the sticky note is causing Lane to slow down. We know that because it's relative to slowing down. So if the response is slowing down, the sticky note is coming before. Therefore, it must be an antecedent. Now, what kind of antecedent is it? Well, we know he puts it there to remind him to slow down since there are very few speed limit signs. So if the speed limit signs are acting as the SD, the sticky note is going to be that prompt. It's going to prompt Lane to slow down. Now, what type of prompt is it? Is it a modeling prompt? Well, we know it's not a modeling prompt because a modeling prompt is when someone does the behavior you want to see. So if someone slowed down first and then Lane slowed down, that would be more of a modeling prompt. Is it a visual prompt? Yes, it is a visual prompt. It's a sticky note. It's acting as a visual reminder for Lane to slow down because the speed limit or the town enforces the speed limit heavily. Is it a gestural prompt? What's not a gestural prompt is a motor movement that is indicating what you want done. Clearly, the sticky note is not any sort of motor movement. And is it positive reinforcement? It's not because it's an antecedent. The behavior is actually slowing down. Avoiding the ticket is going to act as the reinforcement for slowing down. What is causing Lane to slow down is that sticky note, which is the prompt. And since it's visual, it's going to be a visual prompt. You're asked by your supervising behavior analyst during an assessment to take rate data on the client's whistling behavior. Which of the following answer choices would most reflect this type of measurement system? All right, pretty straightforward measurement question. It's just asked in a different way. We want to identify the answer choice that's going to reflect what? Well, it's going to reflect rate. And how do we take rate data? For rate, we're going to need frequency and then a time component, because rate is just frequency over time. So let's look at A, 13 total whistles. A would give us our frequency, but without the time component, we don't have a rate measurement. So even though A does have frequency, we're missing time. What about B, 13 whistles in an hour? Well, we have our frequency, which is 10 whistles, or 10 whistles in an hour. We have 10 whistles, which is our frequency, and then we have our time component. So we know our rate is 10 whistles per hour. Again, rate is simply a frequency over time. What about 15 minutes of whistling? That would be duration. How long did the behavior last? How long did the response last? That would give us our duration, not our rate. And then 5 minutes between each whistle. What do we call it when we measure in between behaviors, the time in between responses? We call that inter-response time. So the rate data, again, we need frequency, which is 10 whistles, and our time in an hour. In other words, our rate of whistling is 10 whistles in an hour, or 10 whistles per hour. Roseanne wants her daughter to start saying please after making a request. Roseanne wants to use shaping to achieve this behavior. What should Roseanne reinforce when shaping her daughter's behavior? All right, so we have a shaping question. With the shaping question, we are looking to reinforce approximations of behavior that are moving closer and closer to our final target. Now, in this case, what is our final target? Final target is saying please after making a request. We want approximations that get us closer and closer to that final behavior. That's what shaping is all about, reinforcing those behaviors that are closer and closer to what we want to achieve. Let's look at A. Each time the daughter is polite. Now, what's the issue with A? The issue with A is it's not very well defined. What does polite mean in this context? Is it please? Is it thank you? Is it holding the door open for somebody? We're not really sure. It's too broad. So do we think polite and reinforcing polite is getting us closer to our final behavior? Maybe, maybe not. It's very broad. Can we find a better way to shape? B, each time the daughter says please after a request. Now with shaping, we aren't quite at our final behavior yet. That's why we have to shape that behavior. So jumping straight to the target is not shaping. So if the daughter isn't yet engaging in please after making a request, B is not going to be possible. C, approximations of please after a request. Good. Let's say Roseanne's daughter says, I want cookie, huh, and makes just a noise, or a play. She's making noises that are closer to please. That is shaping. Those are approximations. You're looking for approximations that are getting you closer to your goal behavior. So be very careful here, right? A, each time the daughter is polite, seems okay, but it's not very well defined. Are we moving towards our goal with A? Again, maybe, maybe not. But we have a much better answer in C because that is actual shaping interventions where we're reinforcing the approximations of our final target behavior. Behavior technician is teaching her client to follow directions. She says, touch your head, and provides praise and a token when the client touches their head. Eventually, the client is always touching their head when someone says, touch your head. The phrase touch your head is primarily acting as a what? So what are you looking at in this question? Always ask yourself, what am I focused on? What am I looking at? What is the question giving me? Notice we don't jump to answer choices. We attack the question. The phrase is touch your head. That's what we're concerned with. And we want to know, what is it acting as? What is it primarily acting as? Well, we know the technician is teaching the client to follow directions. So when she says touch your head, the client touches their head and gets praise and token. Now, the client is always touching their head when someone says touch your head. So touch your head is clearly evoking this behavior. Why? Well, because each time someone says touch your head and the client does it, they get reinforced. So touch your head is now signaling to the client reinforcements available if you engage in touching your head. So is it A, a motivating operation? Well, a motivating operation could possibly be touch your head, but it doesn't necessarily make the consequence, which is praise and token, more valuable. There's a good chance the client always wants reinforcement. A motivating operation primarily makes something more valuable, makes you want and not want something. Touch your head isn't really making the client want the reinforcement. It's just saying to the client, hey, it's available. And when you have something that's evoking behavior that is saying to your client, hey, this consequence is available, that is an SD or a B discriminative stimulus. So touch your head is acting as the SD. It's not the reinforcer, right? Because it's the antecedent, and reinforcement is a consequence. We know praise and tokens are the reinforcement. And it's not a prompt, because a prompt is in between our SD and response. Right now, the client, as soon as they hear touch your head, they do it. They don't need a prompt. So when you have a discriminative stimulus, which evokes behavior, all that SD is doing is signaling to the client or the learner a consequence is available for engaging in this behavior. Touch your head is signaling to the client, if you touch your head, you will get praise and a token. When a task analysis is conducted on a target behavior, what should be the focus relative to the steps that are chosen as part of the behavior chain? All right, a little confusing to read that quickly. Let's not read it quickly. Let's just understand what it's asking. We're talking about a task analysis, which comes prior to a task chain. With the task analysis, we're trying to look at what steps we can teach for a behavior. Now, question wants to know, what do we focus on for the steps? How do we choose what steps to teach in a chain? A, the steps should be as easy as possible. Now, the steps should be appropriate for your client, but they shouldn't just be as easy as possible, because that might not accomplish our goal. Remember, we're always trying to accomplish our goal. B, there should be as few steps as possible. Again, that's going to be client dependent. It wouldn't make sense to teach hand washing with 2 steps if that's not going to achieve our goal. What about C? There should be individualized steps. Yes, we want to individualize everything, especially when teaching a task chain. It has to be dependent What can the client do? What's going to help us achieve our goal? Everything should be individualized. D, the steps should be easy for parents to understand. Yes, the parents are part of the team. Yes, we want them involved, but that's not going to be the priority, right? Just because the parents can't understand doesn't mean it's not the best intervention possible. So what we want to focus on is individualization of the intervention, and we want to do C, should be individualized steps. Thank you for watching. Check out btexamreview.com for all of our study materials. When you pass, let us know so we can include you in the Sunday shout out. Work hard, study hard. See you soon.